Let me tell you a story that will chill your blood, a tale of an ancient evil lurking in forgotten places, patiently waiting for those foolish enough to seek it. This is not just a simple legend but a warning that has echoed through the centuries, an echo of something that should never have been disturbed. In a small village surrounded by vast, dark forests, where the wind whispers secrets of forgotten times, there exists an ancient legend that few dare to mention. This story, passed down from generation to generation in hushed voices, carries a darkness so profound that most prefer to keep it buried in silence. The village elders, their faces etched with the wrinkles of time, avoid speaking of it, as if merely uttering certain words could awaken something that should remain asleep. I discovered this tale while investigating disappearances in the region, disappearances that have been occurring for centuries yet remain inexplicably unresolved. What I uncovered would shake the very foundations of what I believed possible. These were not mere accidents or unsolved crimes, but something far older, something that had been lurking in the shadows since time immemorial. Our story begins with Pedro Pierce, a promising young archaeologist whose academic ambition would lead him down a path of no return. Pedro was known for his insatiable thirst for knowledge, a curiosity that had driven him to explore ruins in the most remote corners of the world. When rumors reached him about a sealed monastery hidden deep within these forests, untouched for centuries, his scientific mind saw only an opportunity for discovery. If only he had known the ancient horrors he was about to unleash. The monastery was no mere religious structure. Its stones harbored the secrets of a cult so dark, so twisted, that the church had attempted to erase all traces of its existence. But some things refuse to be forgotten. Some evils are too powerful to simply fade away. The monastery was a place of worship for something that should never have been revered, a gateway to a realm that should not exist. The villagers knew. Oh, they knew all too well. When Pedro arrived at their remote settlement, their reactions told a story of generations of fear. They made the sign of the cross at the mere mention of the monastery, their eyes heavy with the weight of unspeakable horrors. Some would later claim they tried to warn him, but perhaps they did not try hard enough. Or maybe, deep down, they knew Pedro would not believe them. After all, how could a man of science believe in old wives' tales? An elderly woman, her hands trembling as she poured tea for Pedro at the local inn, finally broke the silence. She spoke of Lysandra, and as she did, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lysandra, a name carrying such power that even now I hesitate to write it. The old woman recounted how, centuries ago, Lysandra had been a priestess of extraordinary talent, blessed with abilities that seemed miraculous. She could heal the sick, foresee the future, and some even claimed she could speak to the dead. But power, as it often does, corrupted her soul. The villagers tell of how she made a pact with entities that existed long before humanity drew its first breath, beings that lurk in the spaces between spaces, in the darkness beyond darkness. The price of this pact was more terrible than anyone could have imagined. Lysandra gained immortality, yes, but at the cost of her humanity. She became something else, something that should not exist in our world. Now this is where our story takes an even darker turn. You see, the monastery was not just Lysandra's home, it was her prison. The church had not merely tried to destroy the cult, they had attempted to bind her there for eternity. But her restraints are weakening, and Lysandra's influence grows stronger with each passing year. The symbols carved into the monastery walls, once radiant with sacred power, are now worn and cracked. The barriers that once contained her are failing. Pedro, armed only with his skepticism and academic curiosity, decided to investigate the monastery at night, a decision that would prove to be his last act of free will. As he made his way through the dark forest, the very trees seemed to watch his progress. Their branches stretched toward him like twisted fingers, and the ground beneath his feet felt somehow wrong, as if he were walking upon something alive. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of decay and something else, something metallic and ancient. The ruins of the monastery emerged from the mist like a wound in reality. The stones were not merely covered in moss. They were marked with symbols that seemed to shift when looked at directly, ancient inscriptions that burned the eyes to gaze upon. And there, in the heart of that unholy place, stood Lysandra. Villagers swear they heard screams that night, but not screams of terror or pain. No, these were screams of revelation, the sounds of a human mind confronting truths it was never meant to comprehend. The kind of screams that make you question not only your safety but the very nature of reality itself. Pedro had found what he was looking for, but the price was his sanity. Some say Lysandra offered Pedro a choice: knowledge beyond human understanding in exchange for his humanity. Others claim she simply revealed the truth of our world to him, the reality that lies beneath the thin veil of what we call civilization. A truth that drives men to madness. The villagers found his notebook the next morning, its pages filled with incoherent scribbles, diagrams that seemed to defy the laws of geometry, and a single phrase repeated over and over: "She shows me everything. She shows me nothing. She shows me the spaces in between." But here is the truly terrifying part. Pedro was not the first, and he will not be the last. Lysandra still waits in her ruined monastery, patient as only an immortal can be. She waits for more curious souls, more seekers of knowledge who believe themselves immune to the dark truths of our world. They say that on certain nights, when the moon is hidden and the wind carries whispers in forgotten tongues, lights can be seen in the ruins of the monastery. And if you listen closely, you might hear voices speaking of secrets that should have remained buried, of knowledge that should have stayed hidden. But heed this warning. If you ever find yourself near those dark woods and hear the voice of a woman offering you knowledge beyond your wildest dreams, run. Run as fast as you can. Because Lysandra's offer is always the same: enlightenment in exchange for your soul. And those who accept her bargain? They become something else entirely. Something that walks among us wearing human skin, but whose eyes reflect horrors beyond our comprehension. Some say Pedro still roams those woods, no longer entirely human, sharing Lysandra's curse of immortality. Others claim he became something worse, a recruiter for her cause, luring other curious minds to their doom. The truth? Perhaps some truths are better left undiscovered. I leave you with this thought. The next time you drive through a remote village and see ancient ruins in the distance, ask yourself, what secrets do those stones keep? What ancient entities might be waiting there, patient and eternal, ready to offer you knowledge beyond your wildest dreams? And more importantly, are you prepared to pay the price for such forbidden wisdom?